the ordinances can be updated, to reflect current uses and needs in the community. So the first amendment that was proposed, this was heard actually before the Planning Commission. On March 28th, it was tabled, and staff was asked to further revise the ordinance, and then it was heard again last month, April 25th, and the Planning Commission recommended approval for the changes. They did make some slight changes that I'll go over with the board today. So the first amendment that was proposed was for recreational vehicles in excess of 20,000 pounds to be prohibited in the small residential neighborhoods. And these are just examples of what these are the large motorhome buses that we've gotten complaints about, parking in subdivisions. So this would be the first amendment that staff is proposing. And then there was the section B5, which is commercial vehicles, and the restrictions on the lots. And we have the type 2 vehicles. Currently, the ordinance prohibits anything, between the one, you only have to be, if you're less than an acre, you won't be allowed to have these type 2 commercial vehicles, and staff has proposed to remove that, which is this second column here. And then, within the buildable area, initially staff had proposed to the Planning Commission that just vehicles weighing no more than 6,100 pounds. The Planning Commission asked that to be bumped up a little bit to 12,000 pounds. And these are, like the vans and the most common vehicles that, people use for work. Pickup trucks, small vans. And what we're proposing that they can park those there in the front yard. Currently, those have to be parked at the side and the rear. So staff is proposing to allow those to be parked in what we call the buildable area, which is the front on the driveway, more or less. It has to be out of the right-of-way. It has to be out of pedestrian paths, which would be like the sidewalks and so on. And these would be those same vehicles, no more than 12,000 pounds, with up to 2 ladders. Because we're still trying to preserve the integrity of the residential neighborhood. And the third amendment would be from the type 3 vehicles, which it just basically explains a little bit, like the vehicles that currently are not allowed to park. So we went ahead and stated them, like the bucket trucks, buses, vehicles with, gross weight over 20,000 pounds, and, tanker vehicles and so on. So this is an example of the vehicles that we are proposing to be allowed to be parked, in the front yard. Right, currently this first one is allowed because it has no outside storage, as we call it. This one here wouldn't be. So we're proposing to change that to allow this type of vehicle to be parked in the front yard, along with a pickup truck with all the equipment on there. And this is just a chart that we've provided to kind of give guidance. It shows the 3 types of vehicles: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. So Class 3 vehicles are the vehicles that are not allowed currently in residential areas. And this is just a diagram to give you an idea of where the front, side, and the rear yards are. Okay, so as I said, the Planning Commission, they recommended this first portion to be approved. And then we have a second portion which was not included in this general amendment. It is a proposal made by the Sheriff's Department. And this is the same section 510-010, B6. Currently, our ordinance allows exceptions for just law enforcement vehicles. The sheriff, we had a discussion, and he has proposed that we allow the record trucks, which are a part of his program that helps to clear up accidents. He is asking that we allow these vehicles to be parked in residential areas. Currently, they're the flatbed trucks or the wreckers. They are Class 3. They are not allowed in residential areas. And he's asking to have this provision, amended to allow them there. And I believe the sheriff is here, so he can speak a little more to his request. So this would be the second part that the board would vote on. And if there are any questions, the issue we have now with this is in terms of managing wreckers. It's kind of hard to manage them even now because we do have some that are in violation. They're parking in the right-of-way, they're parking in the front yard, and they really shouldn't be there. And it's just having the staff to manage that kind of thing. So if the board does decide to approve this, we would have to come up with a way to manage that. And I think these are the amendments that have been proposed. Again, the Planning Commission did approve this section as well. And if there are any questions for staff, I'm here. If not, I believe this is a public hearing as well, Chairman.
Okay, so we're doing these separate?
Yeah,
trying to do 'em-
the Planning Commission voted on them separately, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do the first one first, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the applicant is Newton County. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this tonight? If you have 10 minutes to do so, if you would, please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening again. Debbie Harper, President of the Newton Chamber and Newton County resident. Mr. Jenkins, who is the pro-rooter plumber who had some citations from the county on this, was not able to be here. But I've been working with him and working with Shayna's office, and then we came to the Planning Commission meetings. There was good discussion on that. So we're very pleased with what is presented. And also from a workforce standpoint, we really think that'll benefit our service industry business in the county, as well as a quicker response for our residents when things go wrong. So thank you for considering and supporting this.
Anyone else? That portion of our public hearing is closed. Would you, if we also allow 10 minutes for anyone that would like to oppose tonight, you may come at this time. Anyone would like to oppose tonight?
Back up. I'm not really opposing. I really have a question. This does not supersede covenants and, okay, good. Thank you for that. Okay.
I'll answer that out loud. No, if there are restrictive covenants that are otherwise enforceable, those restrictive covenants would remain enforceable regardless of your zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to oppose it? We need to clarify. This is two different things. This is not what the sheriff is proposing. This is what, yeah.
Good evening. So this is the first time I'm hearing this. I'm not really sure I understand all of the information. However, I do have a concern. I live in a subdivision where we have had issues with big moving trucks being parked in the front yard, huge vehicles. So I saw what was put up here. It was kind of quick. So I'm kind of not really sure where to go from this point, but I do have a concern living in the subdivision, and we having had previous issues with commercial vehicles being parked on the street and in the yard and creating some issues.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, can you give us your name, please?
Nikki Church?
Church. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And again, Shayna, this is the first section of this. This is not the second section, right? All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to oppose? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Ms. Applewhite. You can ask it too. Yeah. Shannon, would you like to answer those questions that was asked?
I don't recall the first one.
I'm sorry?
I don't recall the question, sir.
Well, I think Patrick answered the first one.
Yes, over the covenants, yes.
Yeah, the second was just talking about the commercial vehicles parked on the front yard and on the streets.
Yes, currently, as the ordinance is written, those are prohibited. They're prohibited in residential subdivisions, period. If they are parked in the front yard or in the right of way, they are in violation.
Okay. But they can, Commissioner Mason, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So they are prohibited, meaning that you cannot park them on the front lawn. They cannot be parked on the street, but they can be parked in the driveway. Is that what this?
For the commercial
is saying?
vehicles?
Yes.
You're asking specifically about the wreckers? Or
No,
just type 3?
So listen, let's separate the two.
Okay, yeah.
Let's deal with the first one. He's asking about the commercial vehicles,
Okay.
the one with the ladder racks and all that.
Correct, the two ladders.
Yes. Okay, so those would be class 1 vehicles, which would be like these are vans, the pickup trucks and so on. As long as they don't have any ladders on them, you know, they're considered class 1. Even if they have a logo, they can park in the front yard right now, as long as they don't have like the ladders and, you know, all the other equipment attached to it right now. So that would be our class 1 commercial vehicles. Those are allowed currently. If you have ladders on them and other things attached to them, they become class 2, and they have to be parked at the side or the rear. And then class 3 vehicles, you know, the buses, like the wreckers, you know, these are not allowed at all in residential areas. You need 10 acres or more at least, you know, before you can begin looking at parking those.
So I think what the resident was asking, the class 2 vehicles, would those be allowed to be parked in the driveway? Not, or do those, does the class 2 vehicles still have to be parked on the side or in the rear?
So what we're proposing now is to have not all of the class 2, just the ones that, you know, would have the ladders on them, up to 2 ladders is what we are proposing that they can park in the driveway now.
I'm gonna ask you a question. So, Shayna, so we, you know, we gotta be fair to everybody. You tell it, so when you say that, you telling a plumber that he can park his vehicle in the front yard, but you telling the framer that he can't. Because the framer gonna have more, than 2 ladders on his truck. So, if we're gonna do this, we need to be fair across the board, and that's just my opinion. Because you're telling someone that, you're telling 2 people that work on the same construction job, that when they leave their job, they don't have the same rights when they come home. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, I see that.
Any more questions? Commissioner Sanders?
So currently, I want to make sure, we don't even have this in place. So we're making this, we're amending to add the plumbers and actually the racks. I actually went to your zoning meeting. I actually sat there and listened to the commissioners actually talk about this. So my concern would be also the residents that live in the subdivision. So we're making an exception for the 1 ladder, which I'm thinking is okay, but for those who live in a subdivision, it's kind of like a happy medium. So which we have to try to find that happy medium, because if we're allowing larger trucks, more equipment on it, then now we're inconveniencing those who live in a subdivision. So that's where we have to think about those 2 portions. Because we don't have this in place, we're moving forward for the first time to possibly amend this and see how it works. But in my opinion, I don't think we should be adding on more in the beginning if we don't know how this is going to work out, especially for those who live in subdivisions.
Anyone else? Commissioner Gow?
Thank you. Patrick, have you had a chance to review this?
I have. And from a legal standpoint, it's fine. You do have a business decision to make, well, a legislative decision to make. The ordinance as proposed, and Ms. Applewhite, correct me if I get something wrong. Class 1 vehicles, which is the top level, those can be parked in the front yard or in the driveway.
Right now,
If
correct.
the proposal is approved. If the proposal is approved, the Class 2 vehicles on your chart, including vehicles with up to 2 ladders, can park in the driveway in front of the house, but not in the yard, correct? Or you allow them to park in the yard as well?
Well, currently the class 2 vehicles can park in the side or rear
Right,
yard.
well,
Do
if
we-
approved, forget about the
No,
current.
currently
If
right now,
approved-
yeah.
If
Okay.
approved, the new ordinance would authorize Class 2 vehicles in the driveway in front of the house.
Correct, in
Correct.
addition, yeah.
Right. And the Class 3 vehicles would still be prohibited in residential areas.
Yeah.
So that's the business decision you have to make, is do you want to allow the Class 2 vehicles to be able to park in small lot subdivisions or not? But keep in mind, there might still be restrictive covenants that would prevent it, and you're not changing those neighborhoods. So if there's a restrictive covenant, we have no control over restrictive covenants.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of lost at this point, but let me ask this. So 3 ladders or more. I got a van with 3 ladders on it. That's in the side or the rear, is that correct? If we
Correct.
pass this?
It's
Right now,
currently
it's
allowed
not,
now.
right now, it's not allowed at all.
Yes, sir, it is allowed now if you park at the side or the rear. You just can't park in your front
So
yard.
3 ladders is still on the side or in the back?
Correct.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you,
that's-
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Commissioner Henderson.
Question I have, who's gonna, somewhat police all these people to tell them they take their 2 or 3 hours and put them in the back? Cause I see not too much changing at this point.
Yes, so once we receive complaints, code enforcement will respond and conduct an investigation to see if there's a violation or not.
Thank you. Did we get a motion? Can I get a motion, please?
I actually attended the planning commission meeting and heard from the residents that were appointed by us, and they approved this 5-0. And they actually made some exceptions. They actually did their homework. They went to Jen, and went and received the information in regards to the trucks and the amount, the poundage of the trucks. So they did their research on the planning commission side, the people that we appointed on that board. So I am going to make a motion to approve the amendments to the Newton County Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 1 Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, Division 515, to repeal conflicting provisions to provide for an effective date. I'm going to approve that amendment.
Is there a second? Second. There's been motion by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank
Okay,
you.
Chairman, thank you. And the second part of the amendment would be, it's the same Division 515, Section 515010. The proposal is put forward by the Sheriff's Department to include the wrecker vehicles as part of the Newton County Wrecker Rotation Program to be allowed to park in residential areas.
Okay.
And that's the public hearing.
So who's the applicant on that? I know that's not us. So who would that be?
It would be the Sheriff's Office proposing it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's 7:55. We're going to open it up now for the applicant and those that would like to speak in favor tonight. The applicant and those that would like to speak in favor tonight, you have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and those of you that make up this board tonight. It's good to be here. I would respectfully ask that you would approve the recommendation that we have put forward for the record service. I understand as a resident, I don't know whether I would really admire a record being next door to me, but however, I'm here on behalf of every citizen in Newton County and those who pass through Newton County. So I have to overlook my personal thought. And I look at it as being that the time frame in which a record is to respond to a given location. And I believe did we submit the names of the record service, Ms.? Okay, but however, we only have 4 record services that tow for the county. So you're only talking a small number of records that's going to be in a residential area. So my position is it's better for those records to be placed in a very strategic area in the event if we need a record, not necessarily that we would call the next list record, but however we would call the next record or the record that is closest to that community. We see it happens all the time, and so we would just request that you would follow the recommendation that we've set forth. I believe it's something that's conducive to what we can work with. Also, we're going to provide the information to Ms. Applewhite in terms of those records that tow for us. As a matter of fact, we had considered devising some form of a identifier for those records that's going to be parked, so that when code enforcement encounter these vehicles, they will know that they belong to the tow service for the office of sheriff. And not only the office of sheriff, the records tow for all law enforcement services here in Newton County. Covington Police, Oxford Police, Porterdale Police, Georgia State Patrol, or any law enforcement official who stop vehicles in this county, those record services tow those vehicles. And it's the responsibility of the sheriff to say who become a part of that list to tow. So I would urge you to accept the recommendation as set forth. Again, it's conducive to, I think, for the community, for Ms. Applewhite, and also for the Office of Sheriff. Any questions?
So let us get through with the public hearing.
You're right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else would like to speak in favor tonight? Anyone else would like to speak in favor tonight? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for anyone that would like to oppose tonight. You may come at this time. State your name and your address for the record, please, if you would like to oppose tonight. Anyone would like to oppose tonight? Anyone would like to oppose tonight? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Ms. Applewhite. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Henderson, you want to make a motion or?
Comment first, and question that I wanted to ask was that since we only have about 4 records throughout Newton County to pick up vehicles, maybe someone had to leave for whatever reason, that would they have some type of emblem on it, or this doesn't matter, just their regular company emblem on it? That was a question I had.
I don't know. No. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, I believe the sheriff has considered having some kind of a decal on those vehicles to identify them, is what he has proposed.
Okay. Well, have you ever said that? I'd like to make a motion to approve as was suggested by the sheriff.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Sanders. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passed 5-0. Thank you.
We have one final item this afternoon, Chairman. This is a transmittal. Yeah, right there. So this is a discussion, consideration of the approval of the transmittal resolution. It's R05162023, and report for our fiscal year 22 CIE, capital improvement element, as well as our short-term work program, to send to DCA for review and approval. All right, and because we collect impact fees, we are required to update DCA annually on the progress of our programs and show how much money we're using and what it was spent on. And maintaining this does allow the county to maintain its qualified local government status, and we are required to have this adopted by the board by June 30th as well. So the this chart was provided to each commissioner in the packets. So it's a little small to read here, but you should be able to see it in your packets. But these are the projects that we have and their respective costs and the proposed timelines as updated by those department heads. And then we just have a breakdown of our capital projects. This is the library. They're still pending funds. 2 have been completed, Oak Hill Branch and the library collection volumes at the bottom. These are the projects as proposed by Parks and Recreation. And you can see them listed there by district, the costs, and their current status. And some are still pending available funds, some are ongoing, and some have been started. These are capital improvement projects for the roads department as provided by that department. And again, it goes through the different projects that they will be working on and the current status of each, as well as the costs. And we have our financial report for the end of the year. It just breaks down the impact fees by department: library, parks and rec, roads, and it looks like the balance is just over $4.5 million. So once the board has approved this, it will be transmitted to Northeast Georgia, who will in turn send it up to DCA. They'll review it and make any comments, and then it comes back down to the board for adoption. And I'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And maybe I missed it, I didn't, and if it should be on here, the walking trails for Fairview Road.
So parks and
We received
Rec
the
is here.
$800,000 grant from Congressman Johnson last year, and that was supposed to start sometime this year.
So these are the projects that were presented by the Parks and Rec Department. But you know, our commission might be in the other section. I think it's in this table here. And I know that is too small to find, but it is for the Cricket Frog Trail. It's in the table before. It was just about $5 million.
Let's do this, guys.
I
Let's
believe.
go ahead and open up our public hearing, and she'll be able to answer those questions when she come back.
Yeah, but it's in the table, but yeah, I know the.
Okay.
Yeah, it is open for public hearing, Chairman,
Yeah.
if, yeah, I'll find it for you.
Thank you. So it's actually 8:04 now. We're going to open it up for that. Well, we are the applicant. Those that would like to speak in favor tonight, we have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone would like to speak in favor tonight? Anyone would like to speak in favor tonight? Thank you. That portion of public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that would like to oppose tonight. You may come at this time. You have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone would like to oppose tonight? Anyone would like to oppose tonight? That portion of our public hearing is closed. Ms. Applewhite, if you would. And you-
Commissioner, on page 1, we do have the trails that you asked about. So, yeah, just above this blue line here, this is the Cricket Frog Trail. Yeah. And then above here, we have the Spring Park facility. And the sidewalk projects would be with the roads department projects. I know it's kind of.
Commissioner Sanders.
It's actually the sidewalks and walking trails on Fairview Road. We were given a grant in 2021 for $800,000, and it was supposed to start this year, and I know we had to add additional funds to it. So I don't see that on the list, so that's, the residents of the community have been asking about these trails since we received that funding, and I haven't been given an answer of when it's gonna start.
If it's not listed here, I can certainly get with our transportation director and have him provide that information for me.
Because isn't there a expiration date if we don't use these funds by a certain time?
I'm sorry.
Because there's an expiration date, I believe, if we don't use these funds by
Yeah,
a
we
certain
do.
time.
We do have to use them up. Okay, I'll make a note of that, Commissioner, and I will speak with our transportation director
So,
or our
Mr.
recreation department director.
So my question would be to the chair, Mr. Chairman and our county attorney, are we voting on this tonight if something's not on this, or do I just go ahead and place it as an amendment to make sure it's on this document?
Your deadline, Ms. Applewhite, is the end of June to transmit this, is that right?
No, to it to be adopted. So I have to send it up.
Transmitted and sent back and then adopted.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
so I have to
so-
send it as soon as possible.
Yeah, that needs to be included, because that is a project we applied for a grant to be done,
Okay,
and the community wants their sidewalks and trails, which is really needed on the west side of Newton because we're so dense.
Yeah, we can absolutely add it in. It will be an amendment for tonight, and yeah, we can add it in there.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
We can add it in as an amendment for
Okay,
tonight. If so, should
perfect.
the board approve it, it will be included, and then
Okay.
we can transmit,
Okay.
and yeah.
So Patrick, would you like to,
I'm not sure I'm familiar enough with the project to be able to answer that question.
okay.
I don't know whose department that falls under that may have better
Chester,
familiarity with it.
it was one of the projects presented to us at the retreat.
I believe Chester is here.
Chester's here. Chester, sir, if you would, please come on up. Can you please come up here and explain the grant that we applied for, from Congressman Johnson, that gave $800,000 to connect, to Johnson Park?
So Congressman Johnson's office gave us $800,000, and we were going to add another $200,000 for $1 million trail project. And so, you know, we just
and let's clarify. That's the trail project to do what now?
well, it's supposed to go from Ginn Motors over to the Rockdale County line on Fairview Road. So what we had discussed, I guess, a few months back at the retreat, that that money was then handed over to Georgia Department of Transportation to administer. So when that happened, it opened up all kinds of environmental requirements, and they call it the plan development process. So so basically, at this point, it will be several years before we will go to construction on that sidewalk, because GDOT has the administrative authority for that project. I was hoping that we would get that authority straight from the federal government, but that was not the case. So at this point, we can only use that money for engineering.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Applewhite.
I had a question for Mr. Clegg.
Chester.
So when you stating several years, because I know at the retreat you actually gave a date on when we were going to start the engineering, when the project was going to begin, because we were waiting on the code from GDOT, which we did receive last July.
And I'm still waiting for GDOT to give us what they call a project framework agreement to start the engineering. So the engineering could take a couple years, and then maybe 3, and then at that point we'll have to find some additional money, either SPLOST or otherwise, to construct the trail. So the only way we could avoid that delay, we could start the trail you know, within 6-9 months if we use our local funds, but we would have to return the grant money or reject the grant money from Congressman Johnson's office to do that.
And that was the question you had asked us at the retreat for us to make the decision, and we never did.
Yes, ma'am. So we proceeded with the federal money, but unfortunately, since GDOT's managing it, it takes forever.
So that's going to be the decision for, I guess, us as a board, whether we wait years to put trails in the most dense area where our kids are walking in the street to go to school,
Thank you, sir.
or we use the funding.
Can we get a motion, please, guys? This is a motion to send this to, yes.
So moved.
Can I get a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? Any opposed? You opposed? Okay, you did what now?
My abstention.
Okay, you want to state your reason why?
Yeah, my abstention is in regards to, I don't see all the projects are being disseminated through all the districts equally in regards to our youth. And the reason why I state that, because the sidewalks are a huge issue for the west side of Newton. We've had a child that was hit by a car trying to walk to school, and this is a huge problem. Fairview Road alone has 2 schools where these kids are trying to ride their bikes in the middle of a road on a busy highway, and that is a problem. I have a heart for the youth. I'm gonna keep speaking up for them regardless. I don't care how long. Y'all tired of hearing me talk about our youth in Newton County. We have to do something. We have a problem, and it needs to be done, and that should be included on this project before going up to DCA.
It passes 3-1, 1 extension. Thank you so much.
Chairman, I think those are all the items for today.
And 1 extension, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Applewhite.
Thank you.
Ms. Ham.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is item number 12. We are being presented by Ms. Brittany White, Finance Director, April 2023 Financial Update.
Good evening. Tonight I will be presenting the April 2023 financial report. April is the 10th month of our fiscal year, so that puts us roughly about 83% through our fiscal year. I'll start with the general fund revenues. To date, we have brought in $79.7 million, which puts us at 94% of our revenues. These 2 graphs just show the per month revenue that we bring in and then the actual to budget to revenue. The general fund expenditures, to date, we are at $68.3 million, which puts us at 79.9%. So we're trending about 3 to 4% under our actual to budget, which we've been doing consistently throughout the year. And the graphs just show the per month breakdown of our expenditures and the actual to budget. So at this point in the year, our general fund revenues are at $11.4 million over our expenses, but that will progressively decrease as we go through the year. We have 3 enterprise funds. The water fund, their revenue to date is $8.1 million. Their expenses to date is $5.7 million. Our solid waste fund, their revenue to date is $6.2 million, and their expenses are $5 million. And our Gaithers and Factory Shells fund, revenue to date is $241,000, and the expenses is $200,000. We have 3 active SPLOST now. The 11 SPLOST has 1 remaining project. The 2017 SPLOST is our most active SPLOST. There are several projects going with our 2017. The current balance there is $38.1 million. We have 3 more months left to collect on the 17 SPLOST, and then after we're done collecting on the 17, we'll start collecting on the 2023 SPLOST. So our current collections over projections right now are $31 million in the 2017 SPLOST. 2023 SPLOST, like I said, we've not started collecting on that, but we did bond the projects, so we do have several of those projects going: public safety fleet, countywide park improvement, senior services enrichment center, West Side Community Park, South Side Community Park, and the Community Water Park. And then currently in the impact fee fund, we have $4.7 million. Any questions?
Thank you, Brittany. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Ham.
Mr. Chair, the next item that we have on the agenda is item number 13. It's being presented via Zoom from Ms. Kennedy Shannon with iParametrics LLC. iParametrics and/or BOC Purchasing is requesting approval of Amendment 1 to the agreement for American Rescue Plan Act Consulting Services contract of iParametrics LLC. Cost $420,000. Total contract not to exceed $840,000. The funding source is ARPA and budgeted yes, a match no.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing well, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you for
Awesome.
being on tonight.
No problem. So before you is our request to amend our contract. I know we spoke about this at the last meeting. There were some questions that were asked. They wanted an opportunity to see it in writing, so we did that. We also had an opportunity for Patrick to take a look at it and chime in on it, and he didn't see any issues with it. So at this point, we're pretty much asking for 10% administrative costs for all the programming that we are doing for you all. Again, this was not originally in the RFP that we won. When we came aboard, it was just understood that we would be providing general consulting services. But after the situation with the Salvation Army and the fraud and mismanagement that took place, it was asked us to then run that program and to run all of your programs, which we have no objection to. It's just that the original amount that we bid does not cover for all the additional services that we're offering and that we're going to provide. That being said, we just want 10% administrative costs, the same what you would give to any other organization that run these programs. And we give a breakdown of all the programs that we're running. There are a total of 9 and they equal 8.4 million, which is why we're asking for 10%. This amendment also says that if a new program is brought forward, we will also ask for 10% of whatever that ARPA project amount would be to be added to the contract as well.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Sanders?
I don't have a question per se, but it was ironic that I was invited to a session today at Georgia Tech called Technology and Government. And I was actually the only elected official in the room with staff from other counties, your clerk of courts and so forth. And there is a software called Laserfish. And Laserfish is what counties are using to manage their ARPA and create the processes and the programs and the applications. And so when they mentioned that, it was exciting to me, and I asked the gentleman, I said, well, we need to be on that. And he said, Newton County does have Laserfish. So we have this software to help maintain and build process. I know we're probably the latter part of the game because our consultant has already started this, but we have this process in-house that we could have been using from day one to create the programming for ARPA and all of the applications that we're paying for, and we're not utilizing all this capability. So I'm sitting in this room with those staff people, clerk of courts, and those who do the open records and utilize this software, and learning that other counties are utilizing Laserfish to maintain their programming, applications, and everything for ARPA to save money. So, Mr. County Manager, I asked that you go check with our IT department, because I did send him an email today when I found out about it, and to actually look into that, especially for future use, because that could have saved us thousands of dollars.
I'll definitely look at it, Madam Commissioner. In addition to that, I had an opportunity to meet with Ms. Shannon, and we talked about the existing efforts that she's put forth thus far and how I'll be able to come in and support her in her efforts as well.
Any more questions for Ms. Shannon? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I think one of the questions that I had asked at the last meeting, Ms. Shannon, and I posted to the, I guess, one of the county attorneys, they kind of have a lot sit around this horseshoe, and was look at the contract and maybe at this meeting give us some, well, maybe give me some kind of review, or give us some kind of review as far as about the 10%, and tell us a little about it.
You want me to address that now?
Sure.
Yeah, and we did review the contract, and so the contract as it exists today calls for the county to pay to iParametrics 10% of the first batch, which was the 4.2 million of ARPA funds, up to 420,000. But that contract was limited to consulting services. The proposal before you now is to expand the services from iParametrics from consulting to actually building programs, administering programs, and managing programs, which was not part of their original scope of work. So the decision for the board to make is, do we want to expand the tasks that we assign to iParametrics so that they can continue to design, implement, and manage these projects, or do you want to bring that in-house? And I don't know which of those is better for you. I don't know which is more cost-effective. I don't know which is more feasible. I don't know which one you're going to be able to achieve quicker. I know at the point where we are today, I do know there are a lot of programs, and if you look at the programs listed in the contract amendment, these are programs that people are kind of expecting to happen right now. I'm willing to bet, without speaking for Mr. Cooper, that if what the board's decision is we want to manage those programs, I expect Mr. Cooper's probably going to have a pretty substantial re-engagement period to start up the implementation of those programs.
Well-
So basically, it's a question, do we want to expand the services for which iParametrics are being paid? And obviously, if we do, then we would expand the payments to them as well.
Well, I just want to say this. I've been apologizing to the citizens of Newton County, especially about some of the programs that we've had. And some of those programs is they need to be done. Seem to need to be done quicker, but they couldn't be done quicker. And then out of that 10% is there's the 200 and I think it was $125 an hour. Is that in addition to somebody in an organization we paying them that for answering the telephone, and then we know to get as the answer how much more will we have to pay if we use Miss Kennedy. And I think, if somebody was saying she was a lawyer, and I was thinking in terms of the same amount of money we paid maybe Patrick, maybe about $250 an hour. And I felt sorry for the citizens of Newton County, especially ones who really need help. We couldn't get to them fast enough. Then we were supposed to have somebody come to the county and sit in a chair and a computer and maybe help sign them up. We never did get that to the best of my knowledge. And I felt bad. And then the seniors, we haven't got to that too either. We said something about $15,000, and we knew it was going to take more than $15,000 to fix someone's house. And so there was something, I guess, and maybe I'm a little behind, that we need to address it, at least bring it up to $40,000. And we haven't got there, or have we? Have we got there yet? Okay, so we haven't got there, and I get calls constantly about people trying to help people. And so I'm just going to say this. I know we first started, Commissioner Sanders had said about in-house. And I remember this board, we all said, well, no, we want to get us a consultant. And we did it. Ms. Kennedy, she does a good job, but we pay her as we do any consultant that we have. And one lady asked me, she said, well, how many consultants do you have? And I started counting with my fingers, and then I ran out of fingers, and then I started counting my toes, and I ran out of my toes, and so I started making little marks on the wall. And so I think the consultant fees, they are killing us. They're just killing us. And that money that we're paying, I think it's close to $1 million now that we're paying. Just think how much more better could it be if we could have took that same money, or another $500,000, and distribute out into the communities for its need. Distribute to the folks who are in the motel who can't seem to get out, and try to help somebody. And so that what concerns me, and it kind of worries me. And it seems like, Patrick, you need to give us some more of a leadership as far as how can you help our new county manager for us to achieve this objective. And so we help more people. I think this was the objective of a county manager. This was the objective of having a county attorney, was to help people, especially as we had this additional cash from the American Rescue funding. So, I'm kind of on the line. I think we need to do something. And I think right now we're not helping as many people that I had hoped to help.
And if I could, those are very good comments. Mr. Cooper and I have had an extensive conversation about Newton County's reliance on outside consultants, and I think that's something that Mr. Cooper is going to be looking at. But your immediate question is, what do you do with these immediate programs?
Right.
How do you implement your immediate ARPA programs? And that's not something I'm equipped to do. I'm not in the program management business.
I understand that. Well, I guess the last question I have, what happened to the people that were supposed to come over in this building or somewhere and help folks who needed help?
If I might add, we have a contract in place with Laura Bertram. Those people will be starting June 1st when the senior low-income home repair program starts. and that was the understanding. So there will be 3 people hired. I also want to address, because I think there is a misunderstanding of what it takes to run these programs. From some of the comments I heard from the community and some of the comments from the commissioners, you have to understand you need a full grant management team to manage this money. These are federal dollars. They come with a lot of strings. I know I'm the only one that comes to this meeting, but it's not me running all of these programs for you. We have a team of case managers, people who answer the phone, people who have to check public record, people who have to check income. If you were to run these programs yourself, you would need a grants management staff of at least 30 people, period. And that's assuming you come with the level of subject matter expertise that we bring. That's why a lot of clients like consultants, because we already have a team in place. We do this, I've got 28 clients across the country. I'm managing $1 billion in ARPA money as a firm. Every program you've done, we've done it 3 or 4 times for other clients. Because of that, we are efficient in how we can do our programming. We are asking 10%. So for $1 million, we're asking $100,000 to give that money away. That's a whole team that's working on that program. If you had to hire a team to give that $1 million away, you would definitely spend more than 10%. So I think there's a misunderstanding about the service that we provide to you. Not to mention, you're not going to have to worry about if it's compliant, if you're going to have to spend money back, because as consultants, we come with insurance, right? We come with errors and liability insurance. We come with all of that. So if we make a mistake and mess up something for you, we're on the hook for that financially. So that's what you get as a consultant. And we're able to get these programs off of they may not be fast to you, but to create these programs and have them running the way that they are and as fast as they are, you would not be able to do that internally if you hired individuals. So I just want to make it very clear as a service that we provide.
Yes, and you're probably right, we couldn't. But I can tell you what I do know is the city government, they got about 12 million, and we have something like 12 and 12, 24, and they have an extra staff person who handles their grant, their author funding, and it runs really well. So I think, you know, we only know what somebody tells us. It's not something where we looked around and really actually talked to somebody who's doing it with left staff. And I believe personally, and I could be wrong, you know, I don't know everything, but I do know enough to know as I don't think it should cost close to $1 million for us to give some money away to some people who need it. I think maybe 1 or 2 staff people in-house could achieve that objective.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stated at the last meeting, we voided this contract essentially when we asked our paramedics to take over for what the Salvation Army had started. We essentially voided this contract, and I would venture to say that our paramedics has exceeded what we've already paid them in their services. We were meeting, Commissioner Sanders, myself, I believe it was the former county, interim county manager, and Lloyd at one point, I believe, were meeting once a month and getting absolutely nowhere. I believe our paramedics was a godsend, and I will make the motion when it's time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you making that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir. At this time, I'd like to make a motion the approval of Amendment 1 to the agreement for American Rescue Plan Act Consulting Services Contract of our Paramedics LLC. Cost $420,000. Total contract not to exceed $840,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, sir. I just want to make a correction. We did get somewhere. That worksheet was actually done by myself, and also the board also assisted with that. So we did get somewhere. We gave them an actual blueprint that they didn't have to actually create to do, because we took the time to do the research to do it. I was sitting in a meeting today with counties who did it, who are around our size, who did it without consultants. So that's why I stated that the program is in place. Yes, we're at a later point. We can't switch from a consultant right now. But if we would have done it in the beginning when it was mentioned, we could have done it just like the city of Conyers, who also got almost the same amount of money we got, just like all those other places who receive funding. We have to trust our staff. And at this particular moment, we need to build staff. We don't even have a procurement department. We're not even in compliance. So we need to build staff to make sure we have this in Newton County, because Newton County is growing. And to constantly keep paying for consultants, this is not going at Ms. Attorney Shannon, because she knows my plight. To constantly keep paying for consultants, if you pull the open records, which I did, with the amount of money we spend per month on consultants, and you have consultants, one consultant almost making $30,000 a month, that's a problem in Newton County. And we could create jobs in Newton County for our people here. There are people who are in their profession to do this job, and we're spending millions of dollars on consultants for what?
All in favor? Oh, you got a question? Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add, the worksheet that we originally came up with was actually given to us by Gwinnett County. So it wasn't anything that was created and established by the subcommittee that was originally put in place. I know for a fact that it was because the commissioner who passed that down to us basically stated to me that that was passed to us because they were helping Newton County, because that's what they were doing in Gwinnett County. So that spreadsheet that we originally had
that is false. Point of question. Point of question. Point of question.
And
that's parliamentary procedure. Point of question. That's parliamentary procedure.
Commissioner.
That's parliamentary procedure.
Go ahead and finish, sir.
Because lies are being told.
So that was passed down to us from Gwinnett County. I actually did get an opportunity to watch those previous subcommittee meetings. We really were not getting and progressing where we needed to be as quickly. The objective was to get these funds out to our citizens and to our community as quickly as possible. We were not doing that. And so we had to come up with a plan B to be able to say, what can we do from an efficient place to get that out? And so that's when we brought our parametrics in just to consult. We didn't bring them in to run any of these programs. I don't think anybody would want to do any type of work for free. I don't think anybody would. And so we have now asked them to come in and to run every single program. They've ran our small business program. They're gonna run the small business program. They're running our youth government program. They're gonna run all the senior program. They are running and administering all these programs. And so I think what we're actually giving them 10% is efficient for what they are providing for us, because this board could not do it themselves. This is federal dollars. We did not have the know-all to deal with this. This is the very first time, and will probably be the last time in a lifetime that we will ever get something like that from a pandemic. We don't know if it will ever happen again. Prayerfully, it will not. It was a pandemic. We got those funds, and so now we want to reinvest them back into our community, and we saw that this was the most efficient way. When we actually decided to bring on the consultant, it was a unanimous vote from this board that we would bring on a consultant. All 5 of us said yes. And so I just wanted to be known, put it on the record, that this entire board decided this, that they were going to move in this direction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, sir. It is so sad that people don't want to give you credit for what you do. It's sad. It's really sad. I did that research so that we can move forward, because that money was sitting in an account for almost a year. And some of y'all didn't even know it was there until another commissioner told me about it. And I informed the board of that funding.
That's not true.
I informed the board of that funding. Mr. Chair, you just said to me, don't interrupt, but you just interrupted me.
Go ahead and finish.
So I informed the board of that. So I did not go against what Attorney Shannon was doing. What I stated was, we need to move forward to make sure we have stuff in place. But we so being defensive and don't want to see someone do something in this community, that we have a problem with that. I didn't come against not one commission on this board. I just said we need to move forward. And that's where the issues are coming, because I stated something. You think I'm coming at you. So the point of question is, why do you always have to say something every time I do?
Yeah, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor? All in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? If you opposed, Commissioner? You do?
I would like to make a comment if I may, or I would like to change it to an extension, so I can't make a comment.
That's not, Patrick, point of order. That's not a legal reason. No, you just said point of order, so point of order, Patrick.
What's your basis for your extension?
Most when you ask for an extension, is that you state the reason doing your comment for the extension.
No?
Nobody on this board have ever had to go back and say, I'll tell it during the course of that extension.
Point of order, Patrick.
Okay, so who's running this? I mean, are we stopping people from saying anything now?
No, sir.
On this board?
I mean,
What's
Patrick.
what's
Patrick
wrong?
know what's the point of order. It's a point of order.
I think it's appropriate if you want to vote to abstain, that the record reflect that you're voting to abstain. But I also think it's appropriate that if you are abstaining, you state your reason therefore.
Well, I tell you, what the problem is, it's easy for people to spend somebody else's money. It's easy for when we reach out and try to do something for the citizens of Newton County. And the reason why I didn't vote for a consultant, because it was $1 million that each commissioner we had voted for. And I don't know how we did it, but somehow I know we didn't even rescind the vote. It was some kind of funny vote that transpired during the course of maybe another meeting. And that was the reason why I didn't vote for it, because I felt like that if this board made a motion and a second and we approved it, that it should actually happen. But I'm not surprised about that.
Thank you. It passes 3-1, one extension. Thank you. Ms. Hamp.
Mr. Chair, we have
Thank you, Ms.
three.
Shannon.
No problem, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have 3 items that will be presented by Mr. Chester Clegg, Transportation Director, number 14, 15, and 16. Number 14 is going to be Public Works is requesting approval of a change order amendment number 1 for Colliers Engineering and Design Incorporated professional services agreement for Yellow River Trail. The cost is $72,300. The SPLOST funding for 2017 is at 100%, budgeted yes. Number 15 is Public Works is also requesting approval to contract with Peach State Construction Company for the replacement of a culvert at 630 River Cove. The cost for that, $99,450. The source for that funding is 2017 SPLOST at 100%. And then Public Works is also requesting approval to contract with Summit Construction and Development for the construction of the access road at I-20 from east of Kroll Road to west of Harold Dobbs Road. The cost for that one is $7,540,672.64. The funding for that particular item is construction is going to be funded 80% by Federal Highway Administration. The 20% remaining is 2017 SPLOST, and all of these have a deadline of this evening by midnight, May 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Good evening,
Chairman.
sir.
Thank you. I'd like to turn the first project, which is the Yellow River Trails, over to the project manager, Jeff Prine.
Good evening.
Good evening. So Collier Engineers was brought on board to help us do land agent services as we seek to purchase the easements along the first segment of the trail from the city of Porterville up to I-20 and over to Fairview. As part of the analysis of that effort, we've identified about 13 to 14 parcels that are going to require us to do appraisals as part of that process. This amendment is for us to conduct the appraisal services through Colliers Engineering, and Patrick was a part of that process of evaluating that and giving us his opinion as well.
Thank you. Commissioners. So we don't take long. We can just seek a motion from anybody. It'll be fine.
Motion to approve as stated by the project manager.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's a motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? One abstention? In favor? All right. It passes. Commissioner Sanders, I didn't see your hand. You for it? Okay, it passes 5-0. Thank you.
The next item I have is a culvert on River Cove Road has failed and needs to be replaced, and I've got two quotes on replacement of the culvert. One was $99,000. The second one was $102,000. The lowest bid was by Peach State Construction, requesting approval to contract Peach State Construction to replace the double barrel 60-inch diameter culvert.
Thank you, sir. I seek a motion, please. Is there a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0.
The final item I have, Mr. Chairman, is the award of the construction contract to Summit Construction for the construction of the bypass road at Crowell Road and I-20. The cost of the construction is, the contract is $7,540,672.64.
Thank you, sir. I seek a motion, please. Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? All right, thank you. It passes 5-0. Thank you. Ms. Hamp.
Mr. Chair, the next item we have is item number 17, presented by District 4 Commissioner Mr. Henderson. Randy Connors, Special Projects Coordinator of the City of Covington. District 4 Commissioner J.C. Henderson is requesting support in seeking funding for development of trails from the City of Covington and joint funding with Newton County. Trails from Nelson Heights Community Center to Central Park, Walker Bend, Washington Street Community Center, and possibly further. Budgeted at this time, no.
Well, first of all, it's not seeking funding. It's the ability to apply for grants. This is something that Randy and we had talked about. Well, just let me say this. We are at our strongest when we work together, when we work with the City of Covington, when we work with the town of Alfred, when we work with the town of Porterdale, Newbern, Mansfield. We're at our strongest. We want to run trails, look for grants. I think it's more Mr. Connor, Randy, looking for grants than me or the county, because that's what he has done for years for the City of Covington. And we had thought, along with Anthony Henderson, the City of Covington councilman, that how much better would it be if we could find money and run these trails that would connect up to Washington Street, that could be find money to connect up to Walker's Bend, Porterdale, Central Park here in Covington, and take advantage of I think what they had built and we approved for Washington Street, the basketball court, a new basketball court they're putting together. I think most of the funding came from the hotel motel tax, and so we wanted the ability, working with the City of Covington, they're going to be presented to the City of Covington as well, to work together to apply for grants. And once we receive the grants, we'll come back to the Board of Commissioners and to the City Covington Council before he would or we would together proceed with the project. And I just add one thing: it doesn't cost us a cent. It just, we wanted to make our communities a little bit better. It won't take years if we could find some funding to run a trail. It could be done within a matter of a shorter period of time than what it probably would take us to approve some monies that Commissioner Sanders had got from Hank Johnson to do what we're supposed to be doing. So I think that's a good opportunity. And all what we basically is asking, and I'm asking Patrick, should I make it in form of motion or just in order for us to look at it and maybe hopefully come aboard on it?
I think, I mean, it could be a motion to authorize, I would recommend that if you want to do a motion, it be a motion to direct the county manager to work with the city of Covington to identify funding opportunities for the trail system that you've identified.
So moved as stated by the county attorney.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Patrick, will we need to get that done, we need an IGA?
It would depend on the nature of the funding, but probably so, but you don't need one right now. I mean, all you're going to be doing right now is Mr. Cooper and his staff are going to work with city staff to see what's out there. And when they identify what's out there, depending on the nature of the funding, you may need an IGA, you may be one jurisdiction or the other, and it'll likely have to come back to the board for authorization then.
Absolutely.
Any more?
And Patrick, also an MOU will be involved.
It would, yeah, one or the other, depending on the nature of the funding. I think to decide that now is probably putting your cart before your horse.
Any more discussion? All in favor? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is item number 18, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity to allow citizens to make comments. You may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners,
Good evening.
and welcome to our County Manager. My concern today is, matter of fact, my question today is to ask, why don't we have an attorney that is in-house? That way, all the money wouldn't be going out into fees, and we could save money. This would also apply if we could have an in-house grant writer. Going forward, if we know who make these decisions, we could better understand. We, the community, is unaware of this knowledge. It would make a great difference if we knew the process, because we are now at the end. If maybe the search for an attorney could have taken place 6 months ago, we wouldn't be at the place where we are now. And it certainly would make a tremendous difference. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you state your name for the address?
My name is Rosie Crawford of Covington, Georgia.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanisha Daly. I live in Covington, 30016 zip code. This is my first time here, and I want to ask a question, because I've noticed that money is only being spent on one side of Covington. 30016, from what I've seen, has been neglected. It's dilapidated, it's dirty, it's like it's turning into a whole ghetto. Why? Because I don't see any investment, I don't see the roads being fixed. You have craters that have been there for years and no improvement. I am disgusted. I am disgusted. I moved here in 2012, and I've been watching other areas in Covington develop. And there's nothing being done on that side. And it has been that way for some time now, right? Also, from what I've been seeing sitting back there, it's like there's no unity among you guys here. It's like these things that you are bringing up here, their money can be spent somewhere else in Covington that it's needed. Spend it on our youths, spend it in our black communities. Because from what I see, the areas in Covington that are being developed and where the money is being spent is predominantly white. This is America. We know the history of this country. And if anybody hasn't spoken about it, I will. I think they're redlining 30016. You can check it. You can drive over there and look at the difference. 30014 looks totally different from 30016. And that happens to be predominantly black. It's not, you guys sitting up here, it's not about wearing fancy suits or pretty dresses. It's about getting the work done. And we want to see some work in Covington. We want to see improvements. Or else, guess what we're going to do? I know I personally, I'm going to start reaching out to the media. CNN is going to come over here and do a story because we want to see a better 30016, not just 30014.
Thank you.
Okay, one day I'm going to come here and I'm not going to be speaking, but there's a lot to deal with. Annette Alston again. Earlier, I spoke about lack of fiscal responsibility by neglecting to hire an in-house grant writer. After hearing the explanation of Ms. Shannon, in the interest of transparency, I would want to know how much money attained in grants and how many programs are being run by iParametrics. Are other counties our size getting the same results while spending less money? On the matter of a lack of an in-house attorney, this is yet another example of what appears to be poor decision-making and a lack of fiscal transparency. And I have no problem with Mr. Jogsetter or Jared Davis Law Firm, but we're spending an inordinate amount of money on legal fees. Maybe some of that money could go toward lowering school taxes that residents are paying. I bet we could even raise the salary significantly for an in-house attorney and still come out ahead. It is said that we are currently paying more than 4 times that we were paying when we were paying for an in-house attorney. There's no reason why we do not have one. The contract ends June 1st. It's clearly too late to hire an in-house attorney at this point. The question really is, why was this process not started more than 6 months ago? There are questions that our county citizens, these are questions that our county citizens deserve to know.
Good evening, board. My name is Nikki Church. I reside at 105 Ascot Trace in the Hanley Mill subdivision. We have been informed that there is a proposed 140 new homes to be built in our subdivision over a period of time. We currently have 1 entryway into the subdivision and 1 entryway out, exit out. So we have quite a bit of concern about, God forbid, if we ever in one way out. Our subdivision sits right off on 212. 212 runs, I think, maybe about 4 miles or so, I'm not sure. It's an enormously busy state highway. People drive 70, 80 miles an hour. So when we're coming into our subdivision, it's already currently can be challenging given, you know, the traffic going both ways. So thinking ahead, we're really concerned about once the full development of these homes are there, you know, being able to get in and get out, especially during rush hour in the morning. We have several school buses coming in as early as 6:30 a.m. in the morning and then several times in the afternoon. I have been in communication with Mr. Edwards, who is the commissioner for our area, and I have been told he's looking into the matter, and we're very, very grateful for that. I have another one of our residents here. Several people also wanted to be here, but because we just found out today that the meeting was tonight, they couldn't rearrange their schedules. But we really have a concern about the new builder. Currently, we're told not having any, proposal to do anything about putting in an additional way in or out. We're hoping that that can be something that can be reconsidered given our concern for safety for the families in the Hanley Mill subdivision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My name is Denise Durant, and I'm a homeowner in Hanley Mills, exactly where Nikki Church is. And I do have some concerns. I just recently moved. I'm a year here from New Jersey. I love where I am. The only problem I have and what I observed is because of the one-way in and one-way out, where the demarcations are not there so clear, what happens when you're coming out of my street and you make that, that left, all right? There can be vehicles blocking the street where it's the island and there's a gap. So what I have to do is detour, come into that island, come out, and go against the traffic. And to me, it's a problem, much as when we have 140 houses being built in the near future. What happens when there's a fire? What happens when there's a catastrophe? So that is my concern, and just wanted to let you know what will be done to deviate or reduce that risk.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good evening. Archie Shepherd, District 4, Covington, Georgia. We as concerned citizens have a right to speak up when we feel that money is being wasted in this county. And one of the things we feel that being wasted is with the present law firm that's representing Newton County. You had an opportunity there. You had plenty of time to try to get a new attorney, in-house attorney. One of the things I feel like with the previous attorney we had, if we had had him, we never would have had all these lawsuits. You don't have any insurance now because you got Poe law firm. I mean, represented. This is not personally, but we feel like the Attorney Patrick is let lots of stuff happen, and the reason you're in this spot now is because you didn't have an in-house attorney. We feel like you're not concerned because you have 3 commissioners, and they run in the county. Irregardless of what we the citizen want, they don't consider what we want. They doing what they want. And it's time for us to make a change here in Newton County. There's too much going on in here in Newton County that we're not satisfied with. The commissioner not listening at us. They're not concerned about us. And the leadership here is just doing what they want to do, not what you was elected to do. So when election time come up, we're gonna try to make some changes because you all not listening to us, you're not listening to the people that put you in office, you're doing what you want to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Frederick Johnson, 1036 Highway 162, Covington. I guess maybe I got some announcements like things that I need to put over your hearing. But May the 25th, 6 o'clock, Mr. Henderson had asked me to try to have a town hall meeting out at Good Hope Baptist Church at 6 o'clock with Mr. Right here, right, okay, Mr. Cowan, right? Y'all gonna be able to make it? I got word the other day that the groundbreaking ceremony was gonna be for the Spring Hill Park. I didn't get the time on that. Can somebody
I'm
tell me
not
the
sure
time?
exactly what time it will, but we will definitely let you know.
Okay, good enough. Okay, also on the 29th of May, the American Legion Post 32 will be observing our annual Memorial Day service on the square at 10 o'clock. And you know that I have been for the last few years, several years, over the cemetery cleanup. We normally try to do this on the King's birthday. Usually it's one day, but we can only do so much, you know. And I'm wondering if there any way that money could be put in the county budget to help maintain those cemeteries during the summer months. Once we go through it, hey, you know, 6 months later, it's growed up. So maybe if some money was appropriated, maybe we could hire someone on the outside to cut that grass and everything. I think you saw one last week, right? So, I mean, we did what we could do there, but now you probably growed up again. So, you know, if anything could be done there, I certainly would appreciate it. I mean, you know, I'm not getting any younger, and I'm not going to be able to keep doing this, but I'll do it as long as I can. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Thelma Nolly from Covington. I just want to ask y'all a question. Since y'all are gonna give the business $50,000, why can't you vote on to give the senior citizens at least 40? Why can't you give them applications to fill out? Why can't you put an office here for the people to come? And if you give them an application, and once they bring in everything they need to bring in, and they bring the application, if something has been did wrong, then they could explain it, get it corrected. Then nobody would have to call anything fraud. Nobody will go to jail for anything. So it's really about the senior citizens. So that's all I'm asking y'all to do. We know it's supposed to start June the 1st, which originally was supposed to start May the 15th. So that's all I'm asking, to think about the senior citizens that need home improvements and they can't afford it. Because if the government shut down, they won't get their check next month. So if y'all could please just think about us sometime, you know, and give the senior citizen at least 40, and give them some applications that they can get filled out, because a lot of people don't have computers. They don't have nobody to help them. So if you give them the application, they can get the application filled out, whatever they don't understand. You put an office in this building, and they can come and they can get the help they truly deserve. Thank y'all. Y'all be safe going home tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our new county manager, Mr. Cooper. Look forward to working with you, Mr. Cooper. You got your hands full, so. Mr. Johnson, I checked on Poplar Hill AME when I was down there Sunday before last for their anniversary, and the debris piles aren't there. I thought I was looking. I'll talk to you afterwards, I had spoken earlier with the young lady, Miss Daly, and her and I had an extended conversation about some of the trash we see around the county. And you've heard me, I haven't spoken on it in a while, but you've heard me talk about it before, is, you know, we can't, as citizens or as board members, we can't stop people from riding down the road and throwing a bag of McDonald's garbage out of their sunroof. Then we can try to clean that up at some point, but, and she and I were having a conversation about how do we urge citizens to be more accountable with trash. and you get down close to where I live, and you get near one of the drop-off sites for trash, and the closer you get, the worse it gets. And I don't know how to fix it. The trash is still an issue, but at some point, we as citizens, myself, we have to take personal responsibility and have more pride in our community. So that's what I'm going to urge. That's going to be my my point of pride comment this week, right? So I just want to pass that along, and thank you, Ms. Daly, for your comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited to announce that I was appointed to Local Progress. Local Progress is a movement of local elected officials, senators, state reps, congressmen, and also local positions. And we all come together to fight for equality and create policies. And I was also granted a scholarship to attend their convening, which will be in September. So it's an honor to be a part of that with other major elected officials across the United States and talk about housing and so forth, and equality in our criminal justice system reform, and to create policies to make sure that the local level is prospering. So I'm honored to be a part of that. Thank you so much for that, Local Progress. We speak of the youth. We speak of being elected officials. One thing I said when I stepped into this position, I said, for one, I wasn't going to be that elected official that you only see during election time. I didn't want to be that elected official that's knocking at your door or don't answer your call. That was the first thing I said. I also stated that I want to be that elected official when you ask me to do something, I do it because I'm representing you. One of the things that you all said in my district, I can state, was that what is in place for our youth and our seniors? There's nothing. So as we can see, nothing has been done in place for our youth and our seniors. We have a youth facility. We have funding for a youth facility. $4 million in place. We have possibly $4 million in place for grant funding. We also have sidewalk money for sidewalks in regards to that. That's for our youth. But we want to say that we're elected officials sitting here fighting for the community, but we're not doing what the community asks us to do. That's a problem for me. I don't sit up here just because I just want to look cute in my fedoras. I love my hats. But I'm not up here for that reason. I'm up here fighting for a community. And that's why you see me fighting community. It's time to stop out every time I say something, certain commissioners feel they have to say something. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. Every commissioner on this board has an opinion. Yes, we do, because we're adults. And if we're mature enough, we can take those opinions and listen to them instead of attacking each other. Not once tonight did I attack anyone individually, but there had to be an opening for someone to try to attack me, and it's getting sickening. It's getting really sickening, especially being the only female on this board. It's getting sickening, and it's ridiculous. I'm not up here to fight with none of y'all on this board. I'm up here to serve a community, and that's what I'm going to do from day one until God allows me to stay in this position. I'm going to fight for my community, the youth, the seniors, and whatever I'm supposed to do, and my vote is going to be ethical. If something is not right, I will not vote for it, and I will speak for it. If it's not right, if we're not doing the right thing up here, I will speak out. I'm not just going to be a little butterfly sitting right here or just a woman just being quiet. You got the wrong female sitting up here. If you want that, you got to put somebody else in place, because I'm going to speak up about what's happening in this community. And it's ridiculous. And we have to stop it because it's starting to be immature. We have to do better. We have to do better. I will start with myself. I even went up to a commissioner and asked him, what do you want me to do? What do I need to do to change for you? That's called maturity. And if we keep doing the same thing over and over, the citizens are going to constantly see us fighting up here for no reason, and nothing's being done. Yes, I live on the west side. I see certain sides being cleaner than on my side of town. I actually live in this community, and it's ridiculous. I have said that since I've been in office, that why the west side of Newton County looks dirty, and it needs to stop. We got to do better in this county. Thank you.
Commissioner Cowan. Let me work this. I got this. I got this. Commissioner Cowan. Commissioner Cowan, you have anything?
I usually don't say much. One thing I guess that caught my attention was the issue of having an in-house attorney.
Run for chairman if you want to.
we looked for nearly 2 years, trying to get a in-house attorney. Quite frankly, nobody was interested. I don't know why. But, even
Tell me what to
me,
say.
I practice law myself, and
Talking to.
I wouldn't do what Patrick does. Even though I've got experience in trial, I've got experience in employment, workers' compensation, government, open records, all that stuff. I've done it, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I appreciate Patrick doing what he does. I appreciate Gerard and Davis handling a most difficult situation that we came into. But again, we have looked for in-house attorney. That ad ran for nearly 2 years that I'm aware of. Couldn't get nobody. I think that it comes across that government itself is difficult, and it's very challenging to do that, especially having to keep your client straight. And I think that would be a big challenge here in Newton County. Thank you.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Harold Cooper to the position of County Manager. Definitely looking forward to working with you to bring some innovative ideas that's going to really help take our community to the next level and to be able to help this board move forward in doing the work of the community. I also had a resident reach out to me, Ms. Leslie Henderson reached out to me today. She is hosting the Atlanta Masters Classic and CareSource Health Fair on June the 17th, 2023 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. She has events starting as early as 7:45 a.m. for yoga and meditation. This health fair will be health and wellness vendors. There's a free street parking workout, and this is going to take place at Savage Society CrossFit, 14500 Lock Ridge Boulevard, Suite E, Covington, Georgia 30014. And so she was asking me to make sure that the community knows that she was actually having this event through Atlanta Masters Classic and CareSource Health Fair on June the 17th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then she'll have yoga starting at 7:45 a.m. I know we are a community that enjoys health and wellness. And so when she reached out to me, I told her I would make sure that I would make this known to our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. I just want to invite everybody out to 7200 Lasser Street. You know, and I heard my colleague, Commissioner Edwards, said, what do? You start with the children. You got to kind of encourage them and mold them in a way that they don't want to, when they get grown, like me, throw trash on the road. You want to show them what they should do and help them. Now, you know, and I know it's been a little bit, something in the paper about said they cut Nelson Hike funding. Well, they cut Nelson Hike funding a year ago. And because of the citizens of Newton County, Nelson Heights, Green Acres, Sand Hill, and on down the line, they came and used the building more because they wanted to keep their building for their children. And we actually paid the light bill. The light bill was not in J.C. Henderson's name or Anthony Henderson's name. The light bill was in Recreation Department. So there were bills that we were paying was bills that the county should have paid anyway. But I think my colleague running out, he said, well, let's at least pay the bills. And that's where it came from, about the funding. But if you're going to help children change their minds, then you're going to have to start with the younger kids. And we need to do something about this gun law, because a lot of them is toting a lot of guns around. And as Mr. Johnson said, about the town hall meeting, 25th of May, 6 p.m. at Good Hope. And I'm still mourning the loss of Pastor Thomas. He was one of the greatest men that I knew in my life and over the years that I have stood on this board. In fact, he stood up for me in this same horseshoe, him and Pastor Hezekiah Benham, back when he was preaching over at Bethlehem. So what I'm saying is this, y'all. We have got to come together, not fight one another, stop and help our youth. We're going to build that for the whole month. We're going to open the doors up in Nelson Heights. If I had to stand out there myself and watch the kids, and believe me, I do it, because that's where I was raised. And let's stop trying to talk about one another. Let's help one another. Because I believe, and I may be wrong, and somebody help me, more preachers in this old deacon, God created us the same, and he loves all of us, and we should be acting the way that we act. Thank you, Mr. C.
Thank you, sir. Jeff Prime. Is there a need for executive session? I thought so. Land acquisition? Guys, I seek a motion that we move into executive session. Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor?